But what I do know is that I was awoken at 4 a.m. last night and the words came clearly to my mind. And as I have learned on many previous occasions, when the words are being dictated, I better get ready to write them down. So why is a non-ranching, non-farming, non-cowboy hat-wearing chiropractor here? I am a freedom-loving American. I'm a veteran. I served in Afghanistan. More importantly, I'm a father, a husband, a brother, an uncle, and a son, even a son of liberty. 2 weeks ago, I had the privilege of attending a gathering. It was a gathering much like this one. I entered, shook hands with those in attendance. Many were familiar faces while others were new. We knelt together in prayer as a humble cowboy petitioned to God to open our hearts and minds and guide our discussion and to give us the courage to be strong. We spent the next 2 hours talking and sharing of our feelings of our heart. 2 men in the room had become well known in this previous week. They had driven all through the night to be at this gathering. They weren't sure why they were prompted to come, but had the faith enough to be sure that it was the right place to be. I wasn't completely sure why I was there either. The 2 hours spent allowed me to get to know the people in the room. I even got a glimpse of their individual lives and public struggles. More importantly, I felt impressed to look past the rough skin, the calloused hands, and the cowboy hats so I could see who they were on the inside. One of these men stood and humbly shared his love of country and respect for those in attendance. He shared his passion and determination for freedom, freedom from oppression, freedom from tyranny and overreach of the government that was intended to be limited in its power. You may not agree with the way he and a few others chose to make the stand on a secluded refuge, but there was no doubt he was confident it was time for someone to stand. He himself would tell you that it was never in the plans when they went up there to show support for the fellow rancher, for it would evolve into a stand for freedom, where their very lives would be at stake. But he was very clear that he felt it was a fight worth fighting despite the risks. At times I could feel his frustration. I could hear him in my mind saying, why don't people see the slavery by which they are bound? How can people not see the oppression? And why will they not stand up? The tone in his voice almost answers those questions by saying, if they will not stand up, then I will stand for them. He never asked us to follow him back to the refuge and fight, but rather encouraged us to stand where we are and fight. He had accepted his role as someone who had been awoken by tyranny and awoken to fight against it, awoken to freedom and agreed to educate others by standing and fighting for it, even if it meant his very life. At one moment in that gathering 2 weeks ago, it seemed as if his answer came as to why he was there. It was that light bulb moment when he now understood why he had been prompted to drive through the night to be there. A group of ranchers from this county were there. They shared how they had stood up before and almost completely freed themselves. He realized it was a fight that could be fought. He pled with all in the room to lend their support to this county and to help them be free from the oppression. You may be one of those who may be saying, I don't have any stock in this fight. You may be thinking, well, they don't bother me, so why should I bother at all? Maybe you're asking yourself, what can one little old me do with a problem that's so damn big? Make no mistake, this man that traveled all through the night believed in you. I have no doubt that he realized that night that you are the place that can free yourselves of this bondage. He recognized that while you can't do it alone, you can have the confidence of knowing that there are others who will stand with you. You have a sheriff who understands his jurisdiction. You have a county commissioner who understood the limited role of government. He realized you could be the example to which all of the counties need to see so they know it's possible for them to do it the same. He believed this was a local fight that could be fought right now. 2 nights ago on his way to a gathering not much different than the one in which we sit tonight, with the purpose of educating ranchers much like you, or like you. He was gunned down with his hands in the air, killed for his willingness to fight for you, murdered because he felt it important to stand and educate ranchers just like you about their rights, massacred by the government he spoke out against. Thomas Jefferson wrote, "When the people fear the government, it's called tyranny. When the government fears people, it's called liberty." So I encourage you tonight, you may not have to lose your life along the way. I pray it never comes to that. But I urge you in this room, in this county, to not lose this opportunity again, to free yourselves from oppression. I urge you to become the free ranchers, that humble man, father of 11 children, rancher, farmer, friend, who knelt down and prayed 2 weeks ago, that you might become. I was there at that meeting that he's talking about. I was the only, well, Ryan's wife was there as well. I watched all of the men, all of us knelt in prayer, all of these tough cowboys. I saw the frustration that my husband had. He was frustrated because he was worried people would not hear, would not understand, would not know what was being placed on the altar, and didn't understand the fight that is at hand for all of us. And again, you don't need to be a rancher to know that we are losing our freedoms and our liberties. We didn't all have to be up at Malheur. We have a battle here in our own sphere, in our own influence, circle of influence. Our family is going to move forward with my husband's mission to educate and to help teach. I have 11 wonderful children that are very articulate and talented and gifted, and they all want to pick up the torch in their own areas to help keep this message alive and to help move forward. I encourage all of you in your own area and in your own circle of influence to do the same. And I know that you already are, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't. I want to leave you with my husband's favorite quote. He kept it on his nightstand, taped on the wall area. It's by Ezra Taft Benson. "The fight for freedom is God's fight. So when a man stands for freedom, he stands with God. And as long as he stands for freedom, he stands with God. And were he to stand alone, he would still stand with God. A man will be eternally vindicated and rewarded for his stand for freedom." My husband believed that. He had faith in his God. His heart was in the right place. He was God's warrior in a sense, and he was willing to do all that was necessary. I know that when put in that moment of what to do with that young girl in the back seat, and Ryan and Shauna, I know that he was thinking of their safety more than anything. I believe that when he stepped out of the truck, that he was trying to diffuse the situation by bringing the attention to himself. I don't believe that he was wanting to be assassinated. My husband loved life. He loved his family. He loved living every single day, and he didn't waste a moment of it. So, don't believe that. Again, I want to thank all of you for coming and for listening. I'm overwhelmed at how many of you are here. It is really comforting to know that there are so many that think the same, that give us support, and that we're not alone. Because we were feeling that way. The press has a way of twisting and changing the truth. It has a way of making those who know what the truth is feel isolated and alone. So I thank you. I thank you for being here. And God bless you.
A couple of quick announcements. Over in the corner there is a beautiful young blonde woman who is expecting a baby, and that is Brittany Beck, and she is one of Lavoy and Jeanette's daughters. And so we are so happy that she's here with us as well, and she's the one in charge of all of the wonderful things that they have over there, the book and everything. So be sure to go say hello to her afterward. And she has a beautiful smile and beautiful eyes. I don't know what you did, Jeanette, but they're all beautiful eyes. Okay. And so the other quick announcement is, if you have a question, again, we have someone roaming around here that will give you a little piece of paper that you can write your questions on, and just raise your hand. And we'll save those questions for the end. I'd like to invite now Tara Tenney to come to the front, and this is Lavoy and Jeanette's oldest daughter, and she is a rock. And you are going to get to have a glimpse of her. In fact, I've got to know all 11 of these young people, and Jeanette, you and Lavoy, I don't know what you did, but they're all marvelous and talented and beautiful. And so you're going to get to hear from Tara, and you were up there, right? So you might want to give a glimpse of that. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so while they're handling technology here, we do have pictures of the refuge, and if you're interested in